Good morning. I'm sorry I can't be with you there today. My little guy's homesick, so I have to be with him. Please make sure you pause the video when I tell you to pause and do the workout, and then press play again as we go through it as a class. The first thing you're going to notice is that I went through and I changed the homework. So please make sure that you do the right assignment because this homework is shorter. You're going to need to make sure you have a calculator for these problems, these example problems. Example 1 is asking us to solve for the primary angles, rounding to the nearest tenth of a degree. Example 1a asks us to solve for 3 sine theta equals 2. The first thing you want to think about is how you would solve for 3x equals 2. You'd want to isolate your x, divide by 3, and x would be 2/3. So the same thing's true with this. You're going to divide both sides by 3, and you'll have sine theta is equal to 2/3. So to find theta, you want to know where is sine inverse 2/3. You want to go back, because sine theta is positive, you're going to be in quadrant 1 and 2. You want to have a reference angle. When you plug this into your calculator, you're going to get 41.8 degrees. Make sure you have it on degree mode for this point. Because we're in because we're in quadrants 1 and 2, our theta is going to be 41.8 degrees, and in quadrant 2, it's 180 minus 41.8, so that would be 138.2 degrees. Now press pause and see if you can solve question B. When you're ready as a class, press play. Okay, so let's begin. Hopefully you solved this correctly, and you have that tangent of theta is equal to 9/2. That would mean if you take the inverse tan of 9/2, you'll get a reference angle of 77.5 degrees. Your question, because tangent is positive, you want to know which quadrants tangent is positive in. We go back to our all students take calc, and it's positive in the first and the third. So that's going to be quadrants 1 and 3. So therefore, your theta will be 77.5 degrees, and 180 plus 77.5 to get 257.5 degrees. And then you're all set with that question. Now try example 1. Press play when you're ready to begin again. Okay, so we're going to treat cosine theta as if it's an x, and we're going to get 4 cosine of theta is equal, you add 1, you'll get -3. So our cosine of theta is equal to -3/4. Think back to your quadrants. You're going to be in quadrants 2 and 3 because that is where cosine is negative. You'll take the inverse cosine of the +3/4 to get your reference angle, and that will give you a reference angle of 41.4 degrees. So therefore, you will get a theta. If you go to quadrant 2, you'll say 180 minus 41.4, and you'll get 136.6 degrees. And your other theta will be 221.4 degrees. Moving on to example 2, the question says solve for the primary angles round to the nearest hundredth of a radian. So you want to change the mode of your calculator. please press pause and please do examples A and B. You're sitting with partners, so please work with them to get these answers. So as you will see, example A, the first thing I did is I went through and I said that for the first step, I multiplied by 4. So I cross-multiplied. And then I subtracted 2 and got 3 secant theta is negative 6, which dividing by 3 gives me secant theta is negative 2. Because I know that secant and cosine are cofunctions, cosine theta will be negative 1/2. I'm going to take just the positive 1/2 to find the reference angle. And thinking back, you know the reference angle, when cosine is 1/2, the reference angle is 60 degrees, or it's pi over 3 in radians. So that means because it's negative, I'm in quadrants 2 and 3. So my final reference angles, or no, my final theta will be in quadrant 2, it's 3 pi over 3 minus the pi over 3, so that gives me 2 pi over 3. And in quadrant 3, I'm going to add pi over 3, so that gives me 4 pi over 3. And that takes care of that problem. Example B, you're going to subtract 3, and you'll get negative cotan theta is equal to 4. You're going to divide by negative 2 to get cotangent of theta is equal to negative 2. And if cotan of theta is negative 2, then the tan of theta will give you negative 1/2. We don't necessarily know where tan of theta is negative 1/2 by our special right triangles, so we're going to go through and take the tan inverse of just positive 1/2 just to get our reference angle, and you will get 0.46, and that's our reference angle. So because it's negative, tangent's going to be in quadrant 2 and 4. So I'm going to add 3.14, because that's pi. I'm going to say 3.14 minus 0.46 to get 2.68. And then I'm going to say 6.28 minus 0.46 to get 5.82. And then I am all done with this question. Example 3 tells us the inclination of a line is 150 degrees. So if you start with your quadrants, 150 degrees, here's the line, you're still going from this axis, that's roughly 150 degrees. So we want to know, we're going to try to find its slope, and slope is rise over run, which is really y over x. So slope is equivalent to me asking you what is the tangent of that angle, of that. So the tangent of 150 degrees, the tangent of 150 degrees is the same thing as me saying it's the negative tangent of 30 degrees. From our special right triangles, you know that this is really the square root of 3 over 3. And you're all set with that question. Example 4 tells us the inclination of a line is 47 degrees, and you're trying to find the slope. So thinking back to example 4, you're really just finding the tangent of 47 degrees. So make sure your calculator is back into the degree mode, and you're going to go through and just type that in. You'll get 1.0724, and that's your answer. You can also just answer 1.07 and be fine. Example 5 tells us that the slope of a line is 5/3. We know that slope is the tangent, so we can just write that the tangent of theta is 5/3. When I ask you what its inclination means, I'm asking you really to find me theta. So your theta is going to be the inverse tangent of 5/3. And on your calculator, you're going to get that theta is 59 degrees. Example 6 tells us that the inclination of a line is 74 degrees. So that's really telling us that the slope is the tangent of 74 degrees, which when you do it on your calculator will give you 3.49. So now we've found the slope. Next, we want to find the equation of the line. So if we have the point of 3, 7, and we have a slope of 3.49, you're just going to plug that into the point slope formula, which is y minus y1 is m times x minus x1. So therefore, I'm going to say y minus 7 is 3.49 times x minus 3. I'll multiply through and get y minus 7 is 3.49x minus 10.47. Adding 7 will give me the final equation of 3.49x minus 3.47. This completes this lesson. If you have any questions while you're going over the homework, please feel free to ask each other questions or ask Mrs. Mariani, Mrs. Steele, or Mrs. Reynolds. I hope you have a great weekend for period 3, and period 1, I'll see you tomorrow.